Wrestling fans, what's going on? You are live with the boys from WrestlingRumors.net with Wrestling Warm-Up, as usual, right here on this fabulous website, or on YouTube, or on Google+, or wherever you're watching us. I know some people are queuing us up through YouTube on their Xbox Ones, on their PS4s. And, man, if you're looking at me right now on a big screen TV, that's a lot of sexy to handle. We got Chris Walter hanging out with us as well, as usual. And, of course, Mr. Alex B. Song. And Walter, were you just about to go, What was happening there? You
Too late for that, Doug.
giving props? Yeah, well, that would be you being buried on TV and
Pretty much
jobbing to everyone.
Hey, man, I'm on 56 inches right now. Someone has me on a 56-inch screen. But 56 inches, I mean, that's nothing new. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's like what? 56 inches on what scale? European scale?
Yeah, what's the conversion rate from Canadian inches to American inches?
That's the question. That's my point. All right, guys. So obviously, we always talk about Raw on this program. We always talk about things going on. We're gonna have to talk about Raw. We're gonna have to talk about TLC just a little bit, and then of course we're gonna talk about the biggest thing that has happened in the world of professional wrestling over the last 7 days since we were with all of you last, and of course that is an interview that was held that was held last week and published on Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling podcast on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, which most of us were up Wednesday night. We saw it drop and started listening to it then. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to hit on Raw first, just a little while, and then we'll get into that because I want to talk about that before we get in depth in Raw. But Raw is about a freaking Raw, a general manager this week that's going to be anonymous with a podium and a MacBook, and God Almighty, that anonymous GM tone went off last week at the end of the show, and I instantly said, "Oh no. No. And I mean, it was like if anybody watches The Office, and I told Walter this too, because you're an office mark like I am. My first reaction was, no, God, no, no. Like I just thought of myself like Michael Scott and Toby Flenderson is back in the office. He loses his freaking mind. That's how I envisioned this. I lost my mind after that pile of steaming, absolute, disgusting, stink-filled. I don't even know what word to use because the S word is not strong enough, and poop does not do it justice. I really don't know. Putrid fecal matter. I don't know how to actually describe the Raw that we got last week, coming off of such a hot debut at Survivor Series. I have no idea how we got what we got on Raw last week, but it was absolutely awful. There was nothing. I don't care what anybody says. I know some people will try to pull some good out of something and try to spin something positive out of what we saw last week, but man, I'm going to give it to you guys, and you tell me if there was something positive you saw, because what I sat through for 3 hours made me dread watching this week's Raw. And you know what? It's exactly what the authorities said we would do.
I wasn't a fan. I hated last week's Monday Night Raw. If only because, like, especially on Wrestling Warm-Up, I wasn't on it, but you guys hyped it up like this was going to be one of the biggest Raws of the year.
It should have been!
And we expected Sting, although he wasn't advertised. Like, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that he was probably not going to be there, although he should have been there, because now that we look at the ratings for that show, there was like 4.7 million people tuning into the first hour, which dropped off significantly into the second hour because they pretty much gave away that Sting was not going to be there. Even Daniel Bryan, who I was excited to see back, I wish he wasn't there. I wish they would have kept his return for like a Royal Rumble, because there was a point in like the first half an hour of that show where he just rambled on for 15 minutes talking to each member of Team Authority and putting them in their matches, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, are we ever going to see any wrestling on this show? The only match on the show that was any good was Ambrose versus Harper, which ended with such a crap finish. This is a really good match, and then they had to blow it with that stupid conclusion. And the ending with the anonymous Raw general manager, and for them to pretend like we don't know who it is, like that's such crap.
I have to. I just now that you've brought that up to light, and I just because of how bad the ending was. WWE, do you take us for absolute complete idiots? I know that Vince McMahon, we've reported on our site, but Vince McMahon really thinks that there's like a 6-week time span of when fans remember things. But I swear to God, I remember things from 1992 when I watched the damn product, and most fans that are true fans do as well. Now we know they only care about the casual fan, because for the love of me, I don't understand how you can sit there and try to say the anonymous Raw general manager is coming back, and on the 5-point preview you're going to say who is the anonymous Raw general manager? It's freaking Hornswoggle. You revealed it on the 1000th episode of GD Raw. He crawled out from underneath the daggum ring with Santino Marella. I can't. They did a whole angle with Santino Marella being Sherlock Holmes. What is your problem? Why? I'm not some competitor in your locker room who's pissed you off and you have to punish me. I'm the fan. I'm putting money into your product.
ECW.
Doug, listen.
I don't deserve to eat crap sandwiches, sir.
They don't care about you. I got like 2 minutes, guys. All right. So I just want to get this in here. First off, Doug, you got to chill. You need a Z-Pack or something, all right?
Yeah, they won't do anything.
All right.
I'm going to get MRSA from this anonymous GM Raw thing.
Second off, Raw last week on a scale of rock or bust was pretty bust.
Oh.
But, hey, that comes out tomorrow, so let's celebrate. Anyway, and then I want to get this out there, all right? Regarding the general manager thing, I mean, we all agree in some way. There's all roads lead to Sting being the general manager. No,
which is ridiculous.
I don't think that
it should.
I think the reports that we heard a long time ago are where they're heading with this. It's a short-lived tenure. I don't think it's a long year. It's just something to give something Triple H to fight for. That's all I have time for right now. But I'll take a couple Z-Packs and hopefully try to enjoy Raw. So I'll see you guys around.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.
Alex, what do you think about this stupid thing?
I was a huge fan of the Devil's favorite fry cook from last night. Good old Concessions Kane gonna feud with Ryback. Anyway, yeah, Raw was pretty terrible. I understand that they don't give any damns about like the hardcore viewer. All they care about is their casual fans. So the anonymous GM will be a one-off. They're gonna reveal probably someone other than Hornswoggle. So I don't get why they don't just have that person be the GM, even if it's a heel. Just have them be the GM. Don't have the stupid computer gimmick again. Nobody's going to care about it. It's just going to fail again. They can't get around the fact that they revealed a little person as it the first time. So Raw's probably going to suck once again.
Here's my thing. I understand that it's Cyber Monday, and that's why you're doing this. Like it's because it's Cyber Monday. Well, if it's Cyber Monday, let's put the computer back on there. It worked so well the first time. I mean, what point really, other than it being Cyber Monday, does this serve? Because it does nothing but. And I understand the storyline. The storyline is, as Triple H set it up on Raw last week in the first 10 minutes. We are supposed to hate Raw until they get put back in power. And you know what? And he is actually in touch with the fan base. He looks at our websites. He looks at Reddit. He looks on Twitter. He follows fans. He wants to know, what we like, what we don't like. And obviously he knows that we hate this stupid thing. And it's a smart move on them because it makes us hate Raw. But you know what? It's not in the storyline. Like it's not even hate in the storyline way. It's a hate like I hate it. Like I hate kind of that I work and write for a wrestling website tonight because I have to watch the daggum show and I don't want to, which is not what I want to do. Like I don't want to watch the show tonight, but I have to, and so that's not the right kind of you're gonna hate us, you're gonna hate Raw until we're put back in power. It's like it's not the good kind of hate. It's the hate that I just don't even want to watch the crap. But there's nothing else to do when you work for a website and you have to know what's going on.
And this is going to continue for the foreseeable future, I would think, where they're just going to have guests every single week being thrust into the general manager role, whether it be former wrestlers, D-list celebrities. I mean, look at the crap we've been getting over the last few months, with Larry the Cable Guy and Hoda and Kathy Lee. We might be getting people like that in charge of Raw. And it didn't work the first time. I don't know why it's necessarily going to be any better this time. And it just kind of shows that the direction WWE is going in as a whole. And I keep hearing that, well, just keep course, Walter, because when the road to WrestleMania comes, it's going to pick up. And even that doesn't get me excited anymore, just because, you know, of our perceived main event, of the fact that we're getting Lesnar and Cena again for the umpteenth time. Like, there's just really nothing new that's keeping me interested. But like you said, we're wrestling writers. We have to watch it, even though it's torture.
Man, the biggest thing for me, and let's go ahead and talk about what CM Punk said. Okay, the guy that did the interview with CM Punk on Thanksgiving, we're going to talk about what he said, and then we'll get into why there's just not a lot to be excited about right now, because he hit on a lot of it in his interview. He actually confirmed just about every single report that we put out there about his sabbatical, if you will, as Vince McMahon called it, and then of course, you know, that why he's gone and why he's not coming back and all these different kinds of things. Story of the year, right? I mean, the fact that CM Punk actually sat down and gave fans an explanation. Story of the year has to be.
Yeah, I forgot that Sting debuted at Survivor Series.
Right.
Yep, second to none.
Now, my thing is, knowing that, you know, with CM Punk, and we're going to get to some of the things he talked about, one of the things he talked about was that he didn't actually quit, he got fired, and he got fired on his wedding day, which was, as in his words, and of course that everyone understands that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H despises the man, he said it was a deliberate and calculated move. Do you think CM Punk dropping his explanation finally, just a few days after Sting debuted, do you think that was a deliberate and calculated move?
Nope.
The hottest thing for WWE since freaking WrestleMania 30. Sting finally steps in a ring, a WWE ring. You think it was deliberate that he did it that week?
Alex, go for it.
No, I don't think it was deliberate. I think, if anything, he just wanted to get his side of the story out to his fans that are actually smart, to wrestling fans, maybe not even Punk fans, who just want to know his side of the story. I don't think any of this was like shot to trash WWE or the company, because he got what he needed out of WWE. As he stated in the thing, he made a bank on the settlement. He didn't just get the 2 paychecks that they wanted to keep away from him. He had to get a lot more because the company wanted him hush-hush about what he really got. So I don't think any of this was some calculated move to actually screw over the company. He just wanted to get his story out there. The settlement probably happened maybe a couple weeks ago, sometime after June, obviously. I don't think it was calculated at all.
And you know what? What you said about CM Punk possibly wanting to sabotage WWE's momentum. You know who sabotaged WWE's momentum? WWE, with that crap that we got on Monday Night Raw. So no one can blame CM Punk for that. I just want to get that out of the way.
I'm just playing devil's advocate because I saw that. I've seen that in dirt sheets. I've seen it on Twitter, and I don't think that it was deliberate. I think he was doing exactly what Alex said. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. Let's ask some questions. People in this chat room, if you have questions about it, you want to comment on what CM Punk said, get in here to let us know. We got a lot of viewers tonight. Let me know what's happening. Let me know what you think about it as well, and I'm going to give it back over to Walter so he can keep talking about it.
I also think that this was planned further in advance, so we're probably aware of. And to think, if CM Punk really wanted to stick it to WWE, he would have either A, done this interview a lot sooner after his departure from the company. It took basically a year for something to happen where fans could get an explanation. And then, oh my God, I just lost my point. I shouldn't wear this hat. My brain's getting constricted. But yeah, go for it, Doug. I'll get back to you.
And I do see a lot of people saying that like CM Punk may get sued for slander now and all this kinds of stuff. But I mean, he didn't sign a no disparagement clause, so he can say whatever the heck he wants to. I don't know how they're going to sue him for slander.
Yeah, my point was going to be, sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Punk, he could have, like he said in the podcast, he could have gone to any major news outlet with this story. Like, there were so many companies that wanted this interview and were going to pay him a ton of money to do it. But you have to give the man credit. He went on Colt Cabana's podcast, which isn't the most notorious wrestling podcast you've ever heard of, but it still has a following.
Longest running Wrestler to Wrestler podcast, but it's not popular because Colt Cabana's not popular outside of the IWC.
I have heard some of his stuff in the past, and it's really good, and I want to give him credit. But it's not on the platform of, say, like a Jericho or a Stone Cold Steve Austin. But CM Punk went on his buddy's podcast. He recorded it in his house, apparently, or Punk's apartment or wherever he lives, because people brought up to me that you could hear AJ like snickering in the background, or there was some sort of female voice, so it could have been AJ. But with that being said, Punk didn't go out of his way to just really blow up this story, although that's what we did. When this thing broke, it spread like wildfire across the internet. But he kind of did it low key, which is typical CM Punk, and I'm all for it, and I commend him for that.
Man, and I commend him for wanting to be happy. My wife and I just upped and moved and changed jobs because we wanted to be happy and knew that we were pursuing that, and we're 10 times happier where we are now. And I understand why he did it, especially if his health was how it is that he said it was. I mean, the guy has a staph infection for months, one that literally could have killed him. And WWE, of course, Doc, the infamous Doc Man now. I don't know how he still has a job. When someone's coming to you with a huge knot on their back saying, "Hey, I don't know what this is. Well, does it hurt?" No, not right now. Well, then let's check his Z-Pack and see what happens. Antibiotics don't cure everything, people. It's blatant to see. If you go back and watch footage from Punk, obviously we knew he was hurt when he was working Ryback the first time in 2012, and then of course going into 2013. Working with The Undertaker, you knew he was hurt going in. You knew he was hurt once he hit the table with the elbow drop off the top. You definitely saw him doing everything and anything he could in that match to show off and show out, and he did that, and he talks about that in the interview. But if you watch his progression from there, I was in Greenville when he after the Taker match when he tried to quit then and took a sabbatical to try to get healthy. He just walked off, didn't say a word, and of course he was gone for 2 months, came back in June, came back for Payback, the first ever Payback, and he was the Jericho match. He was the big draw for that in Chicago. Had a great match with Jericho and still had the itch to get a main event at WrestleMania, and then of course we didn't see that happen, and he wasn't going to get that, and he peaced out. Mainly because of his health. But you could watch his progression from Payback all the way to the Royal Rumble, and the bags under his eyes, which are already heavy anyway, they start getting bigger and bigger, and he starts looking less and less like CM Punk in the ring. You could tell he's hurt. You can tell he's sick, and it's one of those things where, man, I don't want anybody to entertain me at the risk of their own health. That's just me. Like I know that you're risking your own health every time you step between the ropes. Like I understand that and I appreciate that. But if you're this beat up and you're this sick and you got this many issues and you need time off, man, I don't blame the guy for leaving at all. I think he's justified.
Yeah, Alex, you want to say something?
I just don't understand that people say Punk owed the company something. It's not like the WWE made him famous. Punk had to actually work to get the success level he got to make over $1 million a year. He was exactly justified in leaving because in a piece that I'm about to publish, WWE has no priority in its talent's health, their well-being at all. They have over 300 live events a year. These guys like Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, the company's future, they're going to get so overworked just because they're, up on the rise. They probably work 5 days a week. They work SmackDown, Raw, live events at least 2 or 3 a week. These guys probably make $100,000 if they're lucky. God damn it, I am just losing it. I am so jammed up about this. But he had every right to leave. They mistreated him day in and day out. You could tell by the way he wrestled. He wasn't feeling it anymore, and he finally reached his breaking point, and he had the balls to do what nobody else had the balls to do.
And I'm with you, Alex. And a point that Punk brought up during his interview that really hit home was, when he was talking about working with these part-time guys, and more specifically the Brock Lesnar's, the Triple H's, the Rocks, and the Undertakers. And Punk was always called upon to do the honors for these guys who would get the big paydays. Punk never got matched in his payouts with those top-level talent, although Punk is obviously a top-level talent. They would be gone the next night, and Punk would be left to carry the load. And like you brought up names like Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. These are the guys that are working the live events. These are the guys that are working 300-plus days a year, but they're not being treated fairly, maybe by WWE management or as the company as a whole. And what Punk brought up, saying, once in a while you're going to have to take these guys and put them into that main event spotlight. You're going to have to put them into the main event of WrestleMania, something that Punk desperately wanted to do before his career wound down. And now it looks like he's never going to be able to do that because I don't think he's ever coming back. So no. WWE treating, and just to cut my own self off, if you're out there and you think the CM Punk story is a work, shame on you. You're a complete fool. We talked about this in our Facebook chat earlier. There was a couple of people out there on social media who actually believe that this is fake and this is just a storyline that WWE has put together. You're an idiot. All of you are idiots who think that. I never like bashing people on the internet. Yeah. Screw you. That's it.
I know. People are dumb, man. I mean, that's.
Come on. Of course, this is leading to Punk versus McMahon or Punk versus Triple H or Punk versus Austin, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
This is the end game here.
Of course, it's leading to Punk versus Triple H. Of course.
Damn fools, man. Damn fools.
I don't know why you would think this isn't leading to Triple H versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 32 or 31. I don't care. What do you think? The biggest thing, of course, when we're talking about Raw, we're talking about this whole general manager spiel that they're pulling out, and talking about all these different angles that have been dropped and then picked back up, like we don't remember that you've already ended it, or that we don't remember that we've already seen this, or something like Nikki Bella having Brie Bella on her side all of a sudden, and things like dropping the Bunny and Adam Rose for 4 weeks and then picking them back up and putting them back in there like they matter. CM Punk says they have nothing creatively on the table for future stuff outside of the guy, John Cena, and probably the next guy, Roman Reigns. Like, they have those guys planned out until WrestleMania, but nobody else. Nobody else. They don't have anything for people. There's 26 writers, like we've been saying for months. 26 writers in the back. They have assistants. And all these people are just coming up and writing things for people that they don't know anything about. If they don't like you or you pissed them off, they don't write anything for you. They squash you, basically. They try to bury you underneath the rest of the card or off TV completely. Obviously, we've talked about Cesaro getting punished, and he's having a job right now. We don't know what he did, but Dolph Ziggler did it for a year. Dolph Ziggler's back in the main event. He's the #1 talked about thing in the 5-point preview on WWE.com. He's now back to where we thought he would be a year ago, but he had to eat plates of crap for a year because he suffered a concussion. And it's one of those things where, man, with the creative working like this, and with them not having any kind of plan going forward, it's obvious. It's obvious on TV. We've seen it for weeks. We've seen it for months. I mean, look, coming out of WrestleMania 30, like, you know, how everyone said, Punk, you quitter, you know, all these kinds of things, like, you know, Punk, you can't change it from your couch, like he said when he came back in 2011. He did that. I mean, we got Daniel Bryan in the main event. If he had still been there, we wouldn't have gotten that. So he did change some things leaving for a little bit, but it literally was just for a little bit. And now, because of the lack of future planning, the lack of creativity in creative, the lack of building up other superstars to work other superstars, the lack of progression, all these different things that CM Punk was talking about, we see it on TV. Like, you can't say, and I've seen this a number of times on from people on social media, from people leaving comments on our articles, from people in the chat room. I've seen this. They're saying, well, CM Punk may have been lying about most of these things because he's pissed off. At what point? At what point when you're this irritated and bitter and you know, what does he have to gain by lying about this stuff? What does he have to gain about lying it? He's not working for the company. He's not making money off of this podcast. He's not doing any of these things, which the podcast has already been removed from, or it's not removed, but you cannot listen to it on the Art of Wrestling website or on iTunes anymore. You can't pick it up. You have to go to YouTube and watch a video of it, and that's not Colt's YouTube page. So it's not like Colt's getting all these hits now. It's not there for Colt Cabana to get the traffic boost off of everything through his website. It's not. You can only watch it through YouTube right now on fan pages that have downloaded it and added it to YouTube. That's it. So he's not gaining anything. Why would you say he's lying about all this stuff? You can watch the freaking program and see that this is the truth. I don't get how you can sit there and say he's lying about all these things. I don't get it.
Yeah, and his stories kind of fall hand in foot with other guys who left the company, like an Alberto Del Rio, although more of his reasoning was because management is racist. CM Punk obviously didn't have any race issues to deal with. But I'm leaving myself open to hear if Vince McMahon or Triple H ever want to go up publicly, and who knows, maybe Vince will go more in depth than we think tonight after Raw with Stone Cold Steve Austin and that special podcast. I don't think he will, but I'm not naive enough to think that everything CM Punk was the gospel, said it was the gospel. I think if Triple H or Vince ever want to come out and publicly acknowledge the interview and give their side of things, I'm more than willing to listen to it.
Me too.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, CM Punk is one of the more trustworthy guys in professional wrestling. I think he always had other people's interests in heart, which is why I don't get why people think CM Punk was selfish, because clearly in the interview he was trying to help literally everyone, all the young guys. He said the Shield was his idea. He talked about his one-on-one with Rusev prior to their Royal Rumble spot where he wanted Rusev to beat the crap out of him to make him look good. So does that sound like a guy who's 100% about CM Punk? I don't think so. So I take his word on most of what he said, and but then again, I want to hear some more. And we're going to get more next week, or this week, apparently, with the second part of the podcast.
On Thursday, you can ask questions, and CM Punk and Colt Cabana will address them and answer to the best of your ability. I hope that they pull some stupid questions out and just berate the guys that send them in. But Ed Call on Twitter was asking about who may be the most affected by some of the things that CM Punk said. Obviously, he had some words to say about Vince McMahon. He had some words to say about Triple H. He called Ryback a steroid guy. He also said that Ryback took 20 years off of his life, something that I've been saying since Ryback got thrust into that push. And of course, CM Punk talked about Ryback, where the officials in WWE said he's not ready to be in the main event picture, but you can carry him if you want to. Obviously, Punk said, okay, let me see if I can work with this guy. Obviously, not thinking about himself, thinking about let's see if we can get Ryan Reeves over. And, of course, he was super reckless. And I've said that from day one. Alex, I know you're a big Ryback fan. I'm just saying.
Not as much.
For me, I have said this from day one. This is not me going back and, me hopping on a CM Punk bandwagon. I have said stuff about, I've called him Ryhack since 2012 when he debuted as Ryback, and he wasn't Skip Sheffield anymore. If you go back and look at any of our videos, go back and get in any of our chat rooms. I was saying it in 2011 on the VOW chat rooms that this guy is awful and he's going to be bad. They're just building him up like Goldberg. And of course, Wrestle Reaction, Frank Manzo, Joe Omega can tell you that I've said from day one he should not be in the main event. He's so limited in the ring. His finish is crap. I don't care what anybody says. His finish is terrible. And now he's going to be working with Kane at TLC in a chairs match. Why am I interested in that? I'm not. There's nothing that can interest me in that match. But I do appreciate Punk stepping out and saying something about how reckless Ryback is, because he is. He just is. I remember watching those matches with CM Punk and saying, this guy just doesn't care. He doesn't care. We talked about it in our Facebook group. We talk about things on the reg with you guys. I said, as soon as CM Punk said something about that table spot, I said, let me find it, because I know that's one that stands out in my mind. I remember Ryback gorilla pressing him off of the freaking the tech trailer, the freaking sound box. He press slams him off of it. He hits the side of the table instead of the actual top of the table. He slides off and just slams in the concrete. He had his knee wrapped up. He had his ankle wrapped up. Obviously, you could tell he was banged up. And then, of course, he gets slammed on the concrete from 15, 20 feet up. Dude's reckless. He just is. So I like that he said something about that. I'm not particularly saying that he should have buried Ryback as much as he did, because WWE is trying to make Ryback into something. But I am glad that CM Punk acknowledged just how reckless he is, because now that's somebody that has worked with him saying that, and not just trying to cover something up as a cat would do in its litter box, cover it up with some sand and try to make sure it doesn't stink. The guy is reckless and needs to change his style in the ring a little bit and get a better finisher, because it's just terrible if he wants to succeed in life. And that's one of those things where when you said earlier, we got Ryback and Kane, and you said you were excited about that, Alex. Tell me why you're excited about that.
When did I say that?
At the beginning.
I'm not
of the
excited
show.
about that. Did I?
You must have been.
No, that was sarcasm.
Sarcasm, yeah.
Yeah, I did not. I was not a big fan of Concessions Kane. Big shock there. I do see the feud just like one thing to pull out there for Ryback. They're basically going to test him with a reliable opponent. Punk did bring that up in the podcast. If you can work with Kane, you can work with anybody. So if he really isn't as reckless as he once was, he'll have a good feud with Kane. Maybe he'll just hang around in the mid-card. Then he could possibly go up into the main event. But I honestly don't have much qualms with what Punk said about Ryback. I mean, you understand where he's coming from. He probably did take 20 years off his life. Maybe not literally, but figuratively he did. I mean, he banged him up in every single match or, table spot they did. Ryback was just not a good worker back then. They shouldn't have rushed him into a singles feud like they did. On the other hand, Roman Reigns, they didn't rush him into a singles feud right away. They had him in a group in the Shield instead of Chris Hero, which is another hot topic from that podcast. But I just think Ryback, he was put in a terrible position. Maybe now working with Kane, he can actually build himself back up.
Yeah, I love all the little subtle things that we've reported over the years, like on our site and on different sites that, like, Triple H doesn't like this guy, or the fact that Chris Hero, Triple H had no want to put him up in the main roster, didn't have any kind of desire to see him succeed, and CM Punk kind of alluded to that, saying that he went to pick out his guys from FCW he wanted in the Shield to work with later after the Undertaker match, and he suggested Ambrose, Rollins, and Hero, and of course Triple H squashed it. And Vince said, how about, Liaki? How about Roman Reigns? Because he's the pretty boy. He's the one that we want to come up here and replace John Cena at some point. And, Punk rolled with that. But it's nice to see some of these things that we've reported over and over and over again on a Rumors website, like we are, and news, like wrestling news, that sometimes without the best sources available, that CM Punk basically confirmed all of them. So it makes me feel safe to say some of the stuff we know what we're talking about, so you can rest easy about that.
And now these stories coming out, like I reported recently for the site, WWE management has soured on a potential Ryback versus Triple H match at the Royal Rumble, and of course the interview came out before the fact, where CM Punk complained about Ryback being reckless and taking 20 years off his life, like he said, and we can even go back to Survivor Series, where they spent weeks building up Ryback as this main event guy, and then the first guy eliminated from Team Cena was Ryback, and now look where he's at. He's in a meaningless feud in a chairs match, which no one cares about, against Kane, who, while reliable, has just fallen off the map so hard with his corporate Kane going back and forth with the mask that it's just an afterthought. And maybe it has to do with the fact that not only is Ryback a poor or mediocre worker, but we're getting to that time where more and more people are returning from injury. Bad News Barrett's return is just around the corner. Roman Reigns, as soon as he comes back, he's going to be pushed to the moon. Maybe there just isn't enough room at the top for Ryback right now.
And I think that's a safe assumption. I mean, we'll likely get Roman Reigns back on Monday Night Raw next week. The Slammy Awards are next week. We'll actually be there. It's in Greenville. It's right next door. It's the Slammy Awards. There's Brock Lesnar's making an appearance, so you got to think Lesnar and Cena face off at some point to build towards their match. You got to assume that their match is either going to be at TLC or Royal Rumble, more than likely Royal Rumble. So it's one of these things where they're going to stack the deck next week. So hopefully we do see the return of Roman Reigns and some of these other guys next week. But my thing is with this whole general manager thing that we're seeing switch every week, and yeah, we're likely going to see a new person deemed the anonymous Raw general manager tonight, and it probably won't be Hornswoggle because they think we're idiots, and then we probably won't see that gimmick ever again, and I hope that we never see that gimmick ever again. But one of those things, like each week, we're going to see probably a different general manager, and with it being in South Carolina next week, man, I just got to cross my heart, hope to die that it's Ric Flair, because we will give that kid a rousing ovation if he comes out to be the general manager. I'm thinking they're going to go back and they're going to bring in former general managers each week, kind of thing. I know Daniel Bryan was never a general manager, but with the anonymous Raw general manager getting brought back into the fold, maybe they just keep going through different people. Maybe Brad Maddox gets a week. Maybe Vicky Guerrero gets a week. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do here, but I don't see this lasting long. I don't see this being a gimmick that brings eyes onto Raw, and it shouldn't be, because it's terrible. It's a terrible idea. We've seen this thing 1,000 times. I don't get it. I don't get why they're trying to push this down our throats.
But it's another sign that WWE management and the creative team as a whole has no clue what they're doing long term. This just reeks of desperation. It's kind of like they're winging it. And another shot at the writing staff. We're 2 weeks away from TLC. We don't even have a main event.
No, and I think that's because they're still weighing their options. Do they want to run the John Cena Brock Lesnar title match at TLC or at Royal Rumble?
Can't be TLC.
That's
not
the
enough
issue.
time.
That's the issue, because John Cena's being advertised right now as he's going to be going for his third Royal Rumble victory in the Royal Rumble match in Philadelphia. I don't understand how this is how it's going to play out, where Brock Lesnar's facing John Cena at the Royal Rumble. Unless they do the match before the Rumble is the main event, and Cena comes out after he loses. I don't get it.
Chances are we're just gonna get another TLC match with John Cena and Seth Rollins. I don't think Randy Orton's going to be there tonight, so you can kind of scratch Orton versus Rollins. But if it's just Cena versus Rollins, I mean, we saw Cena's team go over at Survivor Series. Is there really anything else left there? You know?
I still think they could do Cena versus Show and then just have Ziggler face Rollins. It's a sacrifice to have a better main event if you do Ziggler versus Rollins in some sort of gimmick match.
You know what? With such a crap pay-per-view like TLC, I would actually applaud WWE for doing a Money in the Bank ladder match between Rollins and Ziggler, because that was, if not, the first 2 hours and 45 minutes of Survivor Series was a complete wash until Rollins and Ziggler wrestled for the last, so-so of the show. And then Sting obviously was a big moment too. But give Ziggler some credit. Don't throw him in a meaningless IC title match. I thought it was going to be Harper and Rowan, but it looks like they're going to do a stupid Rowan versus Big Show feud. So that leaves, Harper without an opponent. I don't want to see Harper versus Ziggler. I want to see Ziggler versus Rollins.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, I said it last week on this show. The main event for TLC, or at least one of the big matches at TLC, because I do think that they just need to go ahead and roll with Lesnar versus Cena at TLC, because nothing else is going to draw eyes on TLC if they don't do that. For TLC, do Rollins, do Ziggler, make it for the briefcase, and if they wanted to put the briefcase on a babyface like Dolph Ziggler and give him that shot again, and then I don't know if they're going to actually go through with that. Rollins will probably retain, but that at least puts the number one heel that they've tried to build up outside of Brock Lesnar, who is Seth Rollins. Just call it like it is. Seth Rollins is the guy that they're trying to build up as the top heel in the company, and he's carrying that briefcase. And now you're trying to make, John Cena's helping Dolph Ziggler become a main event star right now. He's trying to elevate this guy.
Well,
main event player.
I sort of disagree. I understand that he's probably trying to make him a main event player, but all I kind of got, in the last 60 seconds of Survivor Series plus Monday Night Raw, is that Dolph Ziggler is kind of becoming, quote unquote, excuse my language, Cena's bitch. Like they're doing this whole buddy thing, which doesn't make sense because regardless of whatever.
Times has Ziggler been beaten up in the ring and Cena never come down. That it's not like they're buddy.
Yeah, I can understand if they kind of emphasize that there's a respect factor there, but they're never going to be friends. And I want Ziggler to be as far away from Cena as possible, just like I said with Roman Reigns. I don't want them to have any relationship. I want them to be separate faces, separate personalities, something, kind of like what they did with Dean Ambrose, where they had a team together, they hated it. And let's not forget, at TLC, we have Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt in the tables, ladders, and chairs match that no one really seems to want to talk about. It doesn't get the juices flowing there.
Well, let's talk about why we're not talking about it. Why have we not mentioned Dean Ambrose or Bray Wyatt yet on this program, and we've been talking for 40 minutes?
Because Survivor Series was a 20-minute promo for that match.
That's exactly right. So I've already gotten everything that I need for that, right?
Dean Ambrose.
I don't need to talk about it. I don't need any more build up to it. I saw it at Survivor Series, and I'm not seeing anything about it on TV that's worth mentioning. You take out. You bring Bray in, and you have this great match between Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose on Raw, and then what? You ruin it?
You want to know how blatant the advertising was? Dean Ambrose at Survivor Series pulled out a ladder for the sole purpose of for him to climb up and pose to the crowd.
Exactly right. And the match was announced 10 minutes later on WWE.com. That's all it was a promo. And there's nothing for me to get excited about that feud going in. I'm just looking forward to the match. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about it because there's a lot of other things to talk about right now. It's just not. You know what? I'm actually excited to see what the New Day does tonight. I'm excited about the New Day. That's the only thing that I'm looking forward to on this show. These three guys needed repackaging. They needed this gimmick, and now they have it. They're just like the Freebirds. They can come in and tag whenever they want. If they win the tag titles at TLC, if they win the number one contendership for the tag titles tonight, which I will guarantee you some way that happens because they just debuted. Why would they not debut hot? The Rhodes brothers got their rematch last week, so it's not like they have a rematch clause waiting. So you have the New Day win the #1 contendership for the titles and then build for 2 weeks, with Miz and Mizdow, which will be fantastic because Miz and Mizdow are the hottest thing going right now because of Mizdow. Man, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see who tags with who gets in the match, who actually works, and if they win the titles, that's 3 guys that can use those titles interchangeably with the Freebird rule. I'm looking forward to this stable, and that's probably the only thing that I'm really looking forward to on Raw tonight is the debut of the New Day on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, they promoted last week that their debut would be this week. And then, of course, they debuted on Black Friday, which Big E made fun of on Twitter, which I thought was hilarious. Talk about talk about acknowledging the racism, not only that other superstars claim that exists in WWE, but obviously has been affecting the entire country as of last Monday. So it's one of those things where, man, that's one of the main things I'm looking forward to tonight. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to tonight? We've already talked about how much we're not looking forward to Raw tonight. Is there something that says, okay, I do want to see that?
Alex?
Looking forward the Raw ending because after that's going to be the only hour that I want to see.
Yeah.
And of course, you're talking about the live podcast between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, tag team turmoil isn't going to be a disaster. There's some actual good workers in there. I mean, this Cesaro Tyson Kidd team is worth it. Although that's just a prime example of 2 guys who have nothing else better to do at the moment than to be jobbers in tag team turmoil. The New Day is going to win. It's painfully obvious. They're going to go to TLC and fight for the belts. You think someone else has a chance?
I don't know about that because I know the Goldust and Stardust. They apparently teased on SmackDown that they're gonna unleash darkness on a New Day. One thing I could see happening, I do if I had to pick a winner, I would pick the New Day, obviously. But I don't think we should sell out like the Dust Brothers, costing the New Day in some way. You have the Usos winning those. They go on the feud with the Damien Sandow and Miz, I guess, because the Usos really don't have any other place to go. They're not going to break up. They need to go back after the titles, I would assume. So I could very well see the New Day not winning. They go on the feud with the Dust Brothers, and then maybe they'll have a title shot sometime after that.
You know what's funny? I just realized Los Matadores isn't in this thing. They were just challenging for the titles at Survivor Series. They're not even involved.
Why would they be? There was a joke that they were in the main event last time. I said
after Survivor Series that the best case scenario for the belts would be at TLC to do a fatal 4-way in a ladder match to make the tag team division relevant again, because we all know back in the day what tables, ladders, and chairs did for the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian. I feel like at TLC you have 8 guys in the ring. I think they can make some magic, but maybe you could do that again. Maybe you do Usos, Stardust, Goldust, the New Day, and Miz and Sandow. I think that would be perfect, although this tag team turmoil match eliminates that from the equation.
And see, when you even you just saying the Dudley Boys makes me so much more excited for January and for Royal Rumble than having to sit through this 3-hour bullcrap tonight and have to watch TLC in 2 weeks. Because Royal Rumble's in Philly, there's obviously we've reported it here that the Dudley Boys would like to return. WWE was interested in them returning, and they want to, use some ECW guys in Philly for the Royal Rumble. I'm telling you, they're my favorite tag team of all time. And if I see the Dudley Boys, I'm going to lose my effing mind. And I'm more excited about that. I wish we could just fast forward through this bullcrap month. I really do. I wish we could just get past all this without having to watch any of it, because it's just gonna be bullcrap that we sit through.
Well, the Royal Rumble itself is always a draw, like the 30-man over the top battle royal, just because you never know who's gonna show up in that thing. But again, am I excited for Lesnar versus Cena Part 3? Not really, because the outcome is painfully obvious, and we've seen these 2 wrestle before. The matches haven't been awful, but it's just like it's repetitive. You want to see something new and fresh, especially on the road to WrestleMania. Although I guess WWE wants some sort of definitive conclusion there. But if we keep hearing reports emerging, in January, if Roman Reigns is still the favorite to be this thing, I can't get behind Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I'm sorry.
He's not ready.
I don't think there's enough time from now between WrestleMania for him to really get his act together. He has to gain so much momentum back from being away for injury, and then his promos have been cheesy. He's losing kind of like the crowd reaction now. All he's been doing is these stupid backstage promos where it's clear he's still in the building, but he's doing them anyway. I just feel like WWE has failed with this guy, although they can rebuild him, but I'm just not as open to it.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest consensus about this guy, even with these little promos that he's doing backstage, is that he's cheesy. It comes across as he's he's just a little bit too much like John Cena when it comes to just not being overly exciting anymore. I mean, I like John Cena to a certain extent. I think he needs a change in his character, but that's neither here nor there. I think that Roman Reigns. It does not need to be on TV until the Royal Rumble. Like for me, if I'm building this guy up, man, he already has eliminated more people in the Royal Rumble match itself than anyone else in history. He broke Kane's record last year, and this guy, and the fans wanted to see him. The fans made him into a babyface that night because they didn't want to see Batista win, and Daniel Bryan wasn't in the match. So the fans in Philly will pop for Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble if you just bring him out in the Royal Rumble. Don't even bring him out on TV before that. It's mind-boggling to me that they're probably going to bring him out next week on Raw and then have him start doing stuff on TV leading up to the Royal Rumble. That guy should not step back into a WWE ring outside of house shows because he's got to get back in ring shape. Outside of house shows, that guy should not appear on TV until the Royal Rumble.
Will they though? Will they though give him that kind of reaction at Royal Rumble?
What if?
Yeah, Alex, go.
What if Bryan's in the Rumble? Because people are going to get behind him so much. If you have Roman Reigns come out as a surprise, they're not going to pop that much because he might just run house, eliminate the guy they want to win. It could be the same thing that happened last year.
I agree. I think you can't have both of them in there. If you want Roman Reigns to be the guy to win it, Daniel Bryan needs to be as far away from that thing as possible because it's going to be the same damn thing that they did last year. And I don't feel Philadelphia is a very hard crowd to get over with in the first place. I don't think Roman Reigns is considered to be an IWC guy. I think someone like Dean Ambrose, if he shows up in the Royal Rumble, I think Philadelphia is going to get behind him to the nth degree. If Roman Reigns comes out, he's winning it. But I think there's maybe 3 or 4 other guys that Philadelphia probably wants to win more than Reigns.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to me, man. I really think that I would hold off on Bryan altogether until after WrestleMania. The guy still needs to heal. No, listen. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but after hearing Punk talk, and this guy legitimately was effed up. Okay, Daniel Bryan was messed up. I even though he looked great last week, didn't look like there was an issue at all. And they're saying that his strength is coming back in his arm. I would hold off. Unless you're going to put him in that place again. And I think even with him as general manager last week, the fans were not as high on Bryan as they were when he was there before. And so I don't think that the fans are even going to be that invested in Daniel Bryan coming back in the same way they were before he left. And for me, I would hold off until after WrestleMania if you're trying to build up Roman Reigns, because you're exactly right. There's no way these two guys can get in the ring together in that match and the fans choose Roman Reigns over Daniel Bryan. But with Daniel Bryan needing the time off, needing the rehab to get as strong as humanly possible before coming back, if he's not having that second surgery, I'd hold off. I would not have him, or at least until after the Royal Rumble, because you try to throw him in the Royal Rumble when you're trying to make Roman Reigns, it's not going to be a pretty picture.
I think the fans weren't as high when on Daniel Bryan when he returned because they did basically spoil it on the internet that he was going to be there. And when Michael Hayes was tweeting out there's going to be more surprises, they figured, okay, well, Daniel Bryan's in the building. He's probably going to show up, but it's not going to lead to anything. This isn't a permanent return. He's going to do a one-night spiel. He's probably going to run the show, and then that's about it. I wish they didn't do that. I wish they kept him for when he's 100% ready to get back in the ring, because then I think the fans are going to go absolutely ballistic. Not for something last week that meant nothing in the grand scheme of things.
And I agree completely with Punkin Quitter in the chat room. He changed his name a little bit tonight. And it's good thing you didn't say Punkin Quieter. I think Punk would have an issue with you. Punkin Quitter says, you know, it's going to be interesting when Daniel Bryan actually does get back in the ring because there's no way he could continue the same style that he was wrestling in before.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go full speed like he was before. He can't do a flying headbutt. He can't always do the dive outside. He can't run for, I mean, unless he's super, super confident that he's not going to mess up his freaking body for life doing the same style that he was doing. He cannot do the running. I mean, all the different moves that he did. He can't do the run into the corner drop kick like he's a crazy man. Do the missile drop kick off the top and land on his back. Like there are issues with him coming back. He's not going to be the same Daniel Bryan.
But he's versatile enough to where he can change his moveset pretty much completely and still have it work. And we noticed that with we noticed that with Rey Mysterio, you know, when he had all those knee surgeries and he couldn't jump off the top rope anymore or do the West Coast pop. I mean, but he still had a pretty decent moveset that got him over. But no, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, his cruiserweight days, but he still had something that was fun to watch.
See, I was gonna say that's the example of not being able to do it, because even though Rey Mysterio still got some years out with his terrible change of movesets twice because he blew out his knees still doing the daggum frog splash and stuff. Now he just did the flying splash, like just the, you know, hold his ankles and jump off the top rope and do a splash. This guy, Rey Mysterio tried so hard, but it just wasn't the same thing. And Rey Mysterio's ring work, his technical skill was what got Rey Mysterio over. Okay, this guy was a cruiserweight at 5 feet, going out and having matches with big guys because he was that good in the ring. And when he modified his moveset in the ring, I didn't think he was that fun to watch. The only thing that still got Rey Mysterio over at that point was that Rey Mysterio was over, and his fans were kids, and he marketed masks, and that was like the big thing. It was Rey Mysterio. But was it the Rey Mysterio that we all, you know, loved in '97 working with Eddie Guerrero? Heck no. It was not even close, and it was not fun to watch in the ring. I groaned about when he came back last year. Ask me how many times we talked on this program last year where I'm going, Rey Mysterio needs to retire. He is done. He does not need to be back in the ring because he just can't go like he used to, and there's nothing worse than watching a wrestler who's trying to do the same stuff he used to do ages ago, and he can't get it done. There's no purpose in watching that. I don't find it interesting when someone who has based his entire career on his moveset, on the way he can work in the ring, and he tries to get back in there and do something different, and it doesn't work out. It just doesn't. And I think that Daniel Bryan's going to have. I think that he has a better chance than Rey, who is supposedly expected to return here soon. It would not surprise me if you don't hear Booyaka go off again in the Royal Rumble like you did last year, and I will groan just as much as I did last year.
I don't know that. Did you see who he was hanging out with?
Conan?
He was hanging out with MVP and who was it? Someone that got arrested. Oh yeah, Conan, I think.
Conan, yeah.
They were at some like Raiders game or whatever, you know, gang banging it up.
Yeah.
Conan got arrested. Yeah.
Conan did get arrested. Yep, sure did. But it's one of those things where, I mean, you know, Conan's at AAA. He's always been at AAA, and then he went and worked for WWE for a little bit. Went and worked at ECW thanks to AAA, and then of course you have him going to WCW for a couple years. He went to TNA for a couple years, and then went back to AAA, and he's still in AAA. He's one of the officials there. But and Rey Mysterio has done some video promos for AAA. That's where he wanted to go when his contract was up in June, and Triple H gave him a handshake agreement. Vince said, heck no, I'm extending your contract because we have a clause in there for it, because I want you to still work because you owe us time because of all your daggum injuries and because you've been lackluster in the ring. The funny thing to me is that they're going to bring him back for what? For 3 months to do stupid, crappy matches?
To be a
Where's
jobber.
the worth in that? Yeah, he's going to have to put kids over, I guess?
He'll be used to put over the young up-and-comers, because no matter what, whatever Rey Mysterio is now, he's still a former world champion, and I think WWE still thinks if you beat Rey, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean,
no one cares.
nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. I definitely think that we see Rey come out in the Royal Rumble, though. There's not those guys that they can't find anything creatively to bring up because they just don't have anything for them, because they're not, you know, they're not the superstars that can just come out and work, like, you know, how Show will come out just and start a program with someone, and it makes zero sense, but it's okay, it's Big Show, and he does this. Mark Henry, same kind of thing. Mark Henry can be gone for 3 months, come back and just start attacking someone, and you're like, oh, Mark Henry's back and he's just doing what he does. Rey Mysterio isn't one of those guys. Rey Mysterio just can't come out and start a feud with somebody and you'd be interested. So how do you bring him back? You don't. You wait until the Royal Rumble, then you throw him back in there, and then you have him and somebody else going at it, and whoever tosses him out can be the guy that he starts a program with. That's how easy that is. But it's just, to me, it's a waste to have Rey Mysterio on their payroll. I can't imagine a time, like, Vince McMahon must have had some huge chip on his shoulder about Rey Mysterio, because they finally got rid of the Great Khali, and why it took that long for that, I don't understand. But the same thing for Rey Mysterio. I don't know why they are still paying this man money to be on their roster and not do anything. It baffles me. It baffles me completely. I don't know. Final words. What do you guys want to say about Raw tonight? What do you guys want to say about TLC? What do you guys want to say about CM Punk? Those are the three topics we talked about.
I'm gonna have to listen to the CM Punk again because it was damn good. Say what you will about the man, but it was a compelling 2 hours of audio that I'm surely gonna listen to again and again and again. As far as Monday Night Raw is concerned, don't watch it. I have to watch it. I would recommend not to because I think it's going to be a complete waste of 3 hours. There's a lot more productive things in this world that you can do than watch tonight's Monday Night Raw. Same with TLC. Save your $9.99. If you're honestly, find another way. Go to a friend's house and watch it, or don't watch it at all because you're probably not going to miss anything anyway. I've reached that point with WWE right now. I don't care about if the Royal Rumble saves everything. I don't care if WrestleMania saves everything right now. I'm so over this. Like this has become more of a chore being a wrestling fan than anything, and it kills passion. Then you have a guy like CM Punk come on a podcast and basically confirm everything that you thought about the company for the last 3 or 4 years. It's tiring, and it hurts. It really does hurt because I've been watching wrestling for years and years and years, and these last few years, especially this year, has just worn out its welcome, and it's not fun.
Peace on.
Well said, Walter. Anyway, all of you WWE marks who want to put Punk down and just continue to bash him even though 90% of the things he said in his podcast were right, please do us all a favor, log off and STFD. As for WWE watching Raw, if you don't like the product, don't watch it or watch it on your laptop. Don't invest in the product, cancel your subscriptions, don't support the company at all, don't tweet your displeasure, and that's that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say we do have another. We just did a question. What do we think about Nikki Bella's promo on SmackDown? I'm gonna leave it this. What do you think about Nikki Bella's promo getting edited from SmackDown? Have you heard the girl talk? I mean, have you seen her personality in the ring? It had to be edited. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. You have seen her live on Monday Night Raw, right? She'll try to do a promo with her sister and other people in the ring. You've seen that, right? Like, you know what she sounds like, right?
I'll give her some credit for trying to do something different. I can at least say that. I don't know if the execution was great. All I've seen is the transcript. But, based off of what AJ Lee said on Raw, where all of the talent that her and her sister got was, sexually transmitted through the people they're sleeping with, for Nikki to come back and retort in some capacity, kudos to her. But I didn't hear specifics anyways, so.
Yeah, I actually watched the clip, and it was obvious that it was edited. And so, man, of course it had to be edited. Of course it had to be edited. This girl tried to think on her feet as well as go off of what someone scripted for her, and it was a very well-written script, which you try to memorize that, and probably the amount of time that she had to memorize that script was an hour, if that, maybe 3 hours, maybe, because they don't write SmackDown until Monday night's well over. Usually on the plane or the bus heading to SmackDown's when they start writing SmackDown, and it gets done maybe 2 hours before if there's no rewrites. So she had a few hours to memorize this huge retort to AJ Lee. And of course, it's Nikki Bella. You really think she's gonna, sell it perfectly in one shot? This isn't Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out there and saying whatever the heck he wants. This is something that someone gets written to. I mean, how many times have we seen Randy Orton forget what he's supposed to say, and ask Sheamus what his lines are? Like, are you kidding me? it's hard enough for the guys right now to remember what the writers have written for them because they're probably getting rewrite after rewrite. And of course, yeah, I mean, it's SmackDown. It's a taped show. Scott Hall on taped shows, if he messed up, would look in the camera and go, take two, and they would do it again. And they would, sometimes they left it in. Sometimes they edited it out. But, it's one of those things where when it's a taped show, you can go ahead and expect stuff's going to get edited. That's why you read the spoilers so you know what got edited or not. And yeah, that answers that question, and that moves us on to Raw tonight. You can live tweet with us. That actually will make the show a little bit more fun with you because I'll be memeing some stuff. I'll be talking to you, making, I'm sure, tons of sarcastic remarks about what we're seeing. You can follow us at WrestlingRumors. Any exclusives, like we were the first people to get the Punk interview up. We were the only ones still awake at that time. So I thank you guys for coming to listen to the podcast on our site before it got removed. Off of Cabana's site with just heavy traffic. And I appreciate fans always looking to us on Twitter, always going to our app. We have like 15,000 people out there in America with our app looking at the news. We always try to get everything out to you as fast as humanly possible and as well written as humanly possible. I've met so many fans of our site that just love the writing. Some of them I've heard, those articles are a lot longer than other people's. Yeah, but have you read it? Like, do you understand why it's longer than other people's? Like, the other people are just putting this one little blurb. If you want just a little blurb, go to another website. You're going to get good writing from our writers. You're going to get excellent editorials, and you're going to get some awesome shows like this one where we talk to you guys face to face. There aren't a lot of other websites that make time out of their week to sit down and talk to you guys face to face. So WrestlingRumors.net is where you need to go get all of your wrestling fix in all the time. And I thank you to the fans that are loyal and always do. You follow along with us at WrestleRumors on Twitter. You can follow Chris Walter at Walter Sports tonight. See what kind of amazingly hilarious, sarcastic, and berating comments he'll make about Raw because it'll happen. And of course, Glass Mode ALB, you might see some F-bombs happen. It just happens just about every other week, if not every other second on Twitter. If you want to see a more
uncensored,
if you want to see a more R-rated Alex B song, you can go to Twitter and follow him there. And of course, you can follow me at Doug O'Mac or at WrestleRumors. We'll get everything to you tonight during Raw. Thanks for watching. We love you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.